thing on the wall.
With the blue tag, they
The
use
blue
in
tag,
blue.
because when you remove it, it removes the paint as well. So please don't do anything like that. If you want something to be advertised or announced, just to give it to Brother Muhammad Zafar. Okay. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, wa ashhadu anna sayyidina Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammadin nabil ummi wa alihi wa sahbihi. Amma ba'd, brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, very soon we'll start the fast of Ramadan, inshallah. So today I would like to talk about the importance of fasting in Islam and what are the different types of fasting. The word to fast is to abstain from something. And you may recall that when Mary radiallahu anha delivered Isa alayhi salatu wassalam, he said to his mother, and he gave her an advice actually, and he said to her, whenever you see a human being, say, I have vowed a fast to the most gracious, that I will not talk to any human being today. فلن أكلم اليوم إني نذرت للرحمن صوما فلن أكلم اليوم إنسانا. I have made a vow to the most gracious that today I will not talk to any human being. So fasting is to abstain from something. The fast we abstain from food, drink, and sex from dawn to sunset. We need to understand this, from dawn to sunset. Dawn could be 2 hours in the summer before sunrise, or 1 hour and 30 minutes. It's all estimates. And if you look at the timetable of the Central Mosque, they say that in May, June, July, and August, at the bottom of the timetable, it clearly states the time of Fajr is an estimate. And there are 3 different types of Fajr: the nautical dawn, the astronomical dawn, and the civil dawn. And it depends upon how many degrees the sun is below the horizon. And because of the persistence of the phenomena of the twilight, it is an estimate. So it's entirely up to you to take 2 hours, or 1 hour and 30 minutes, or 1 hour and 40 minutes, or 1 hour and 45 minutes, or 1 hour and 50 minutes before sunrise. I'll talk about this later when everybody is here anyway. So we abstain from these things from the time of dawn, not from sunrise, from dawn until sunset. What are the virtues of fasting? Abu Huraira tells us that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah says, every action of the son of Adam is for him, except fasting. It's for me, and I reward it accordingly. This part of the hadith is regarded as hadith Qudsi. This is something Allah is saying. The second part is what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. وَالصِّيَامُ جُنَّةٌ. Fasting is a shield from evil. So, whenever you are fasting, no foul language, not to raise your voice, not to behave foolishly, and if you are being provoked or reviled, or someone fights you, just remind yourself twice that you are fasting. Just as simple as that. Allahumma inni sa'im, Allahumma inni sa'im. I swear by the one who has the soul of Muhammad in his hands, that the breath of someone who is fasting is better in the sight of Allah on the day of judgment than the smell of the musk. And the person who is fasting has 2 occasions to rejoice. When he breaks his fast, he rejoices, and when he meets his Lord on the day of judgment, he rejoices. This hadith is reported by Ahmad, Muslim, and An-Nasa'i. So, when you fast, Allah is the only one who knows how much difficult or the hardship you have to go through. It differs and varies from one person to the other, depending upon our age, our health, our condition. So this is something for Allah to decide, to determine the reward of the fast. The one reported by Al-Bukhari and Abi Dawud, very similar to this, but at the end of the hadith it says, the person who is fasting, he would leave his food and his drink and his desires for my own sake. So fasting is for me, and it is me who give the reward for it. Every good deed will receive 10 times similar to it. والحسنة بعشرة أمثالها. عن عبد الله بن عمرو. Abdullah ibn Amr tells us that Prophet ﷺ said that the fast and the Quran, recitation of the Quran, will intercede on your behalf on the day of judgment. The fast will say, "Oh my Lord, I have prevented him from his food and drink and desire during the day, and so please let me intercede on his behalf." And the Quran will say, "I prevented him from sleeping the night. He used to read the Quran during the night, so let me intercede on his behalf." And their intercession will be accepted, according to the authentic hadith by Ahmad bisanad sahih. Abi Umama says, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said to him, "O Prophet of Allah, command me to do something, or order me to do something, or advise me to do something which will guarantee that I go to Jannah." I mean, the aim of all of us that we want to go to Jannah, inshallah, hopefully. So please, they used to ask the Prophet ﷺ many questions regarding this. So please, Prophet of Allah, tell me, what should I do to go to Jannah? You know what he said to him? عَلَيْكَ بِالصَّوْمِ فَإِنَّهُ لَا عِدْلَ لَهُ. Stick to fasting. It has no equivalent to it. So the advice was, if you fast regularly, this is a way to Jannah. The man, Abi Umama, says again, I came to the Prophet ﷺ again, as if he was trying to test the Prophet, whether he still remembers the first question or not. And I repeated the same thing to him. He said, عَلَيْكَ بِالصِّيَامِ, stick to fasting. This hadith is in Ahmad al-Nasai al-Hakim wa Sahah. Abi Sa'id al-Khudri, radiallahu anh, said, the Prophet ﷺ said, whenever you fast one day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep the hellfire away from your face for a distance of 70 years. And they always measure the distance by walking distance. So if you walk for 70 years, you can imagine how far hellfire will be from you. And this hadith is reported by the group except Abu Dawud. Sahl ibn Sa'd reports that the Prophet ﷺ said, paradise has a gate or a door called Bab al-Rayyan. How many gates the Jannah has?
8.
Eight.
Have 8.
Eight. Okay. And how many gates Jahannam has? 7. So Jahannam is like an underground car park, Darakat, underground car park. Okay, and the lowest one is the hardest one. Okay, and Al-Jannah has 8 gates. And when we talk about gates, in one hadith, the distance again between the space of the gate is so enormous. It takes so long for a rider to travel from the end of the door, from this end, you can imagine. So this door is known as Ar-Rayyan. You know, doors or gates can have names. That's what people used to have when they have a fence around the old city, and it has gates, and each gate has a name. So this gate is known as Ar-Rayyan. A caller will call on the day of judgment. Those who used to fast in this life, please proceed forward and enter from this gate. When the last one enters, the gate will be closed. So that's what the Prophet ﷺ is saying in this hadith, which is reported by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Al-Jannah has a door called the Rayyan. On the day of judgment, a caller will say, Ayna as-sa'imun, where are those who used to fast in this life? When the last one enters, the door will be closed. Now, let me talk about the different types of fast. And this is a very interesting topic. Now, there are 2 types of fasting, either voluntary fast or obligatory, compulsory fast. Now, who can tell me what are the different types of obligatory fast, compulsory fast? Compulsory, Ramadan is compulsory, yes? Kaffara, Sawmul Kaffarat. What's the meaning of Kaffara? Expiation of sins. When you do something wrong, you can fast to amend the wrong you made, yes? And the vows, excellent, and the vows, thank you. So there are 3 different types of compulsory fast. Fast of Ramadan, Al-Kaffarat, expiation of something wrong you did, or Another vow, you made a vow. Okay, let me go through these very quickly. They are very, very important. As far as the voluntary fast is concerned, Prophet ﷺ recommended that we fast 6 days from the month of Shawwal. He recommended that we fast during the month of Muharram. He recommended the fast of the day of Arafah for those who are not present. He recommended the Psalm of Ashura, 10th of Muharram, or 9, 10, 11, or 9 and 10, or 10 and 11. He used to fast most of Sha'ban, as I explained last week. And when he was asked, why do you fast most of Sha'ban? He said, it's a month between Rajab and Ramadan. A lot of people are not aware of this month. And during that month, the deeds are presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I would like my deeds to be presented while I'm in a state of fasting. Like the end of year return, he submits the accounts in the month of Sha'ban. As if the new year, the new book will start in Ramadan. Also, it's recommended to perform fast during the sacred month, as you said, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Al Muharram, and Rajab. Prophet ﷺ used to fast Monday and Thursday, and this hadith is in Ahmad bisanad Sahih. Deeds are presented to Allah twice a week on Monday and Thursday, so Allah will forgive every Muslim and mu'min, except to those who keep fighting, and mutahajirin fight with each other, don't talk to each other. And he says delay them or defer them. He also recommended the fast of 3 days every month, and they are known as al-bid, when the moon is full, 13th, 14th, and 15th of the month. And he said, هي كصوم الدهر, as if you fast the whole year. This hadith is in An-Nasa'i wa Sahih ibn Hibban. The best fast, as recommended by the Prophet ﷺ, is the fast of David alayhi salatu wasalam. He used to fast 1 day on, 1 day off. So these are examples of the voluntary fast. If you want to fast voluntary, fast, no problem. Now, let me now talk very quickly about the compulsory fast of Ramadan. We are aware of this. The vows. If you make a vow, if you say, if my son will recover from his illness, I will fast 3 days. Or if I pass my test, I'll fast for 1 day. It's very highly recommended. Do not commit yourself to vows you cannot fulfill. Prophet ﷺ says that. Do not commit yourself to vow you cannot fulfill. Don't say, okay, if I pass my test, I'll fast for 6 months. You know you can't. You know you can't. So do not, because the vow becomes an obligation and you have to fulfill it. So be sensible in the way, and don't make conditions sometimes. That's also what the Prophet ﷺ recommend. Don't make a condition. Oh Allah, if you make my wife recover, then I will fast. Don't condition it. I'll just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give health to your wife, or to your child, or to yourself. You don't have to make it's a conditional thing. Otherwise it becomes very difficult to implement. But once you have made a vow, it becomes obligation on you to fulfill it. So remember that. The third type is expiation. Exactly. Let me give you a few examples so you understand what we are talking about. During Hajj, when you go for Hajj, and you are in a state of ihram, or even if you go for Umrah and you are in a state of ihram, and the person gets ill, and he cannot continue to wear his ihram, or someone has lice in his hair, in his head, and he has to shave to get rid of it. In the state of ihram, you are not allowed to shave. So what is the rule? The rule is he should, in compensation, either fast 3 days, or feed 6 poor persons, or offer a sacrifice, 1 sheep. In the Quran, if you read this verse, which is verse 196, chapter 2, it doesn't give you the number of the days or the number of the poor. It is left to the fiqh to explain these things. So let me read it. And the second one is again in the same verse. if you go for Hajj and you do Umrah before Hajj, whether you are Qarin or Mutamatta', i.e. you join with the same Ihram, you do Umrah and the Hajj, or you do Umrah and you come out of a state of Ihram and you do another Ihram for Hajj, you are known as Mutamatta'. And the person who is Mutamatta', the person who had the advantage or the privilege of doing Umrah before Hajj, there is something to pay. And if you can't afford to do it, then you have to fast. So let me read the verse and I'll explain it. And complete the Hajj or Umrah in the service of Allah. But if you are prevented from completing it, send an offering for sacrifice such as you may find, and do not shave your heads until the offering reaches the place of sacrifice. And if any of you is ill or has an ailment in his scalp necessitating shaving, he should in compensation either fast or feed the poor or offer sacrifice. According to books of fiqh, the fasting is for 3 days, the feed is for 6 people, and then the sheep is whatever you can afford. Now, and when you are in peaceful conditions again, if anyone wishes to continue the Umrah onto the Hajj, he must make an offering such as he can afford. But if he cannot afford it, he should fast 3 days during the Hajj and 7 when he returns home. That's a total of 10. That's according to the Quran. He must make an offering such as he can afford, but if he cannot afford it, he should fast 3 days during the Hajj and 7 days on his return, making 10 days in all. This is for those whose household is not in Mecca. If you don't live in Mecca, then, and you are a Hajj coming from London, and you decided to do Umrah before Hajj, and you cannot afford to offer a sheep, then you have to fast 3 days there, and 7 when you come home to London. That's just an example. Now, another important point, if you are in a state of Ihram, you are not allowed to hunt. There is no game. You cannot go and kill game. It's prohibited in a state of Ihram. And if you do that, the punishment is so severe. And let me read the punishment. In chapter 5, verse 95, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the following. O you who believe, kill not game while in the sacred precincts or in the state of pilgrimage. When you, while you are in the Masjid al-Haram, or in the area which is prohibited. If any of you do so intentionally, even if you are in a state of Ihram, and you saw something, and you pointed out to someone who is not a muhrim, and you said, hunt this or kill this, you have committed the guilt. So the compensation is an offering brought to the Kaaba of a domestic animal equivalent to the one he killed, as adjudged by 2 just men among you, or by way of atonement, the feeding of the indigent or its equivalent in fasts. What does this mean? Let's say I was in a state of Ihram and I hunted a deer, a big one. 2 wise men will judge, will say, oh fine, this is equivalent to you slaughtering a cow. How many people would eat from the cow? Let's say 20. If I can't find the cow, I have to feed 20 poor people, or fast 20 days. So the fasting here depends upon the size of the animal you killed and how many people would have been fed from that animal. Is that clear? So it's not a matter of 1 day fast. No, the fasting depends. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly said that he may taste of the penalty of his deed. Allah forgives what is past. For repetition, Allah will punish him, for Allah is exalted and Lord of retribution. So it's very important, because hunting in Islam is not allowed during the state of Ihram. But fishing is permissible while you are in a state of Ihram, because fishing is a very peaceful game compared to hunting. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 89, chapter 5, Now suppose I made a vow, not a vow, sorry, an oath. I swear by Allah that I will not visit my mother-in-law anymore. Is this right oath or wrong oath? What do you think? Is this something good? Why it is wrong?
But you should visit your mother.
Exactly, exactly. Or if I say to my wife, I swear by God, you should never from now on visit your mother. This is not allowed. Now, I said that, and I came to you and I said, brother, did I do something wrong? And you said, yes, of course. So what is the way out? If I have done something wrong, tell me, what is the way out? I would like to correct my error. So what is the way out? Expiation. How? Listen very carefully, please. Allah will not call you to account for what is void in your oath. I mean, most of the time you say, oh, wallahi, you must come and eat with us. Wallahi, you must do this. You see, this is not what is meant. But He will call you to account for your deliberate oath. For expiation, feed 10 poor people. On a scale of the average for the food of your family. So if you eat twice a day, you feed 10 people twice a day. If you eat 3 times a day, you feed them 3 times a day. Or clothe them. So I have to buy clothes for 10 people. Or give a slave his freedom. Free a slave. I can't find. I can't afford to feed 10 people. I can't afford to clothe them. And there is no slave to free. What should I do? If that is beyond your means, fast for 3 days. Very interesting here. 3 days compared to 10 people. Previously we said 3 days and 6 people. So every case is different. Now, there was a very bad habit during the time of Jahiliyyah when a man would divorce his wife and he says to her, you are on my back like my mother. So form of talaq. It's known as al-zihar. Zahr is the back. And the man would say to his wife, you are on my back like my mother, which means I divorce you. And that was an awful way of divorcing them. And the Quran came, Surah Al-Mujadala or Al-Mujadila, chapter 58, verse 4. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned this completely. And He said to the men, before you can go back to each other, min qabli an yatamassa, before you can touch your wife again, you have to free a slave. If you can't afford it, you have to fast 2 months continuously. 60 days continuously. شهرين متتابعين. You see, the Quran is very clear. It says شهرين متتابعين. 2 months. Can you imagine? 2 months continuous. If you break 1 day, you start again. 2 months. Or to feed 60 poor people. That was known as divorce by zihar. And it shows you that fasting here is used as a form of expiation. In Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 92, what will happen if by mistake, God forbid, one of us would kill a person? I'm driving, God forbid, my car, and I hit someone, I kill him. What should I do? Now, the insurance will pay whatever compensation, whatever blood money to the family of the deceased. But what about my conscience? There are two possibilities. Either I am so proud that I killed someone, and this is very evil, or I showed remorse. I'm so I want to repent. I feel the pain of my action. I didn't mean it, but it's hurting me all the time. I can't sleep. I can't live. I can't survive. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala found a way out for us. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ, you see, compensation is due to free a believing slave and pay compensation, blood money. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعَيْنِ. Again, for those who find this beyond their means, a fast for 2 months running by way of repentance to God. So let's say I'm a medical doctor operating on a patient, the patient dies in my hands. It can happen. It can happen, yes. I have to fast. I didn't mean it, but unfortunately, it was not negligence even, but it was unintentionally. Okay, so we need to understand that killing someone unintentionally in Islam is an awful thing. It's not called a crime because it's unintentionally, but there will be compensation and will be fasting in order to relieve yourself from the pain and the burden you've been experiencing. And this is very important. So I have, for those who came late, I mentioned the importance or the virtues of fasting, and I also mentioned the different types of fasting. I said there is obligatory fast and there is voluntary fast. And the obligatory fast, we have the fast of Ramadan, and then the fast of vows, if you make a vow, and then the fasting for expiation of something wrong you have done. And I explained the different types of them. For more details, you can go through any book of fiqh, and you will find all these things written there. I'm going to stop here. Oh yes, the Fajr. Yes, the Fajr. It's very important because Ramadan is going to start, as you know, inshallah, hopefully this coming Wednesday or maybe Thursday, we don't know yet. The Fajr during May, June, July, and August, the time of Fajr is an estimate. Okay, if you look at the calendar or the timetable of the Central Mosque, at the bottom of it, it clearly says time for Fajr and the Isha are estimates. It's jihad because of the persistence of the twilight. And as a result of this, you have 2 hours before Fajr, 2 hours before sunrise, or 1 hour and 30 minutes. And it's up to you to decide. You can decide, you can choose whether it is 2 hours or 1 hour and 30 minutes or hour and 40 minutes or hour 50 minutes. One opinion says choose the easiest for you, which is the 1 hour and 30 minutes. I personally choose 1 hour and 45 minutes for myself. So everyone can look into it and can decide. But remember, it is an estimate during these 4 months. And therefore, our religion is a religion of ease. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not put or place any hardship on us in our religion. مَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah did not place any hardship on us in our religion. And He also says, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah wants ease for you, not difficulty. So you can decide and choose, because this is all ijtihad. And as I said earlier, there are 3 types of dawn: nautical dawn, astronomical dawn, and civic dawn. And go on the internet and look into these things and see how many angles, how many degrees between the civic, between the astronomical, and between the nautical, and why in the north hemisphere we have a problem to determine the exact time for Fajr because of the persistence of the twilight. Okay, thank you. We